I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. We are really excited to be involved in a Get Out the Vote campaign for this midterm election cycle. I'm Sherry Knuth, and I'm with the Act for the Earth team and co-leading this effort with Priscilla Morton. And we have a couple other people from Unity who are helping to coordinate, and we can use many volunteers. So if you end up thinking that works for you and you want to put the word out, we'd love to have more people as well. I would ask that you stay muted during the presentation. And if questions come up for you during the presentation, please put them in the chat. We will have time at the end of the presentation for questions, and you can wait till then to ask questions as well. If we don't have time for all the questions, we'll provide other ways to answer them. So don't worry about that. But our presenter tonight is Karen Wills, who's the Executive Director with the Minnesota Unitarian Universalist Social Justice Alliance. We are very pleased to have her. I've been learning a lot from her as we prepare for this campaign, and she has just a depth of knowledge, as well as having worked in this arena for this is at least your second election. I don't know if you've done more than that, but for MUUSJA, maybe it's your second. So I will turn it over to Karen. Thanks for being here.
Jay, thank you so much for, both for the lovely introduction and invitation, and for organizing the team. And you and Priscilla have just been amazing to work with in planning all of this. And I'm excited to be kind of like back with Unity. We did this in 2020, and and that year we were kind of focused and emphasizing a lot of postcard writing, but we also did some text banking and phone banking and other kinds of work. And up to and including an amazing phone that I was running, where Rob was one of our master phone bankers, rest in peace, and just hung in through a long and somewhat frustrating phone bank with remarkably good grace. So I just want to acknowledge that all y'all have been through quite a year, and that I treasure the relationship. And that it is a long one. And I want to talk a little bit about how exciting it is to be doing faith-based, nonpartisan electoral organizing. This is not my second election, but it is my second as a nonpartisan organizer. And I have previously been a campaign manager for candidates from my preferred political party for quite a few years. I have done a lot of work with the League of Women Voters and with other organizations. And in this space, I do want to underscore that we are a nonpartisan, faith-based, issue-based organization. So we are going to, both in the questions and in my comments, we will try to avoid discussion in this space of any specific candidates or political parties, pro or con. That's not what we're about. But let me tell you why still a plan. I'm going to go ahead. I know sometimes it is hard to do a thing where you're just looking at screens and listening to somebody talk. But I think the screen will serve, and I'll share these slides when we're done through an email, as well as through the recording. What I think happens, it is helpful, particularly just for people who need more time to process or have any difficulty with hearing, to have things on the slides. And they serve as a permanent record, and you're welcome to share them. They also help me stay on track and on time, which Sherry can tell you is not my #1 talent. So let me just hide this meeting control panel and make that a little bigger. So one of the things that happened in 2020 is that after I had talked with folks in a number of congregations, it circled back to me a while later that a lot of people thought that what MUUSJA was all about was politics and elections, and that's kind of all we do. So I want to give you a quick introduction, even and bear with me, those of you who already know all this about MUUSJA, just about who we are and what we do and why we're doing this. And I see Sherry putting in the chat, if there's questions that y'all have, as I'm like zooming through this, please hold on to those. Put a note in the chat. If you don't want to type out the whole question, you could just say, hey, I have a question. But let us know that way, okay? And I'll bang through this pretty quickly and then try to leave most of our time for a more interactive, conversational kind of interaction. So MUUSJA consists of 1.0 full-time equivalent employee, right? We have one staff person altogether. I'm half of the staff. And then Katie Klein and Allison Wyeth, both of whom are DREs, Katie in Duluth and Allison at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, each work for me 10 hours a week. So our total number of staff hours is 40 hours. And as you will see, we get shit done in that time. What we are is, I had 1.5 FTE. We are short one staff member because like everybody on the planet, things are a little leaner and meaner right now. We represent 30 congregations across Minnesota, North and South Dakota. And this little map with the stars on it shows you where some of our congregations are. We're covering the state from Bemidji to Winona and from Fargo, well, actually from Bismarck, North Dakota, all the way over to Duluth. So it's a fair bit of ground, and thank God for Zoom. Most of our conversations and most of our meetings have been Zoom-based in the past few years. This year, it's getting to be fun. I get in my car, I camp in the back of my car so that I'm not spending MUUSJA money on lodgings, and I drive all over the state and meet with the congregation's social and climate action teams to be able to coordinate among them stuff that we want to get done. MUUSJA is part of an ecosystem of social justice organizing for the UUA, and also across interfaith and community partners in Minnesota. So we represent racial and climate justice teams, LGBTQ disability teams of all 30 congregations. If you're involved with anything like that, you are a member of MUUSJA. It's not an opt-in. You can opt out if you want to and not pay attention to our emails. But if you're doing something with UUs in Minnesota, you're part of MUUSJA right now, even if you don't know it. We also are affiliated with the UUA and with USC and other UUA affiliates, particularly with Side with Love, which is the nickname for the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association National Social Justice Organizing Team. We team with interfaith partners a lot in Minnesota. So groups like Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, the Minnesota Multi-Faith Network, Isaiah, Joint Religious Legislative Coalition, the March Table, which is Minnesota, or the Minneapolis Anti-Racism Team, and Communities Combating Hate, which is a team that is led by Jewish Community Action and the Council on American Islamic Relations and some other groups around the state. And we team with secular community partners for certain kinds of initiatives as well, including Minnesota Voice, which is a nonpartisan BIPOC-led community partner. That's where we get our voter lists for the state from. Protect Minnesota, which is working on gun safety. Outfront works on LGBTQIA+ issues, and Beacon Housing, working on housing and homelessness, are just some examples of the groups that we team with for particular projects. The organizing that we do is grounded in our faith. Some of the relevant principles, particularly for electoral organizing that we think about, obviously the democratic process. We don't like it when people are suppressing the vote and the voice of anyone. The idea that every person has inherent worth and is important in their own right also means that they have an inherent right to representation. The interdependent web, none of us is operating in a vacuum. I think, Elizabeth Warren's comment around when she was running, that you didn't pave the street in front of your own house, right? We're all dependent on other people for our lives. And then the eighth principle, the proposed eighth principle around liberation from racism and other oppressions, is something that's very central to the way that MUUSJA does electoral work, because, as I said, we want everyone to have a voice, and we know that voter suppression disproportionately is impacting people with disabilities and people who are Black or Brown or Indigenous or more recent immigrants. When we talk about organizing, someone said to me not long ago, "Oh, I'm not interested in MUUSJA. MUUSJA doesn't do anything that I would ever want to do." And I'm like, okay. And where does that come from? What do you mean by that? And this gal who's a friend of mine, NEU, says, well, MUUSJA is all about marching in the streets with signs. So we have not worked hard enough to correct that misimpression. MUUSJA does organizing using a model of preparation, reflection, connection, and action, all of which are equally essential and important. By preparation, we mean we do our homework. We listen to people, we listen to what congregations are telling us, to what people are interested in, to what they need. We read and we research. We reflect, we think and we chat, we talk with one another. We particularly reflect through an anti-racist lens, which I know all y'all are getting very good at. You did the IDI in your congregation, the Intercultural Development Inventory. We did the IDI as a board and staff, and we are learning from that. Connection means nothing about us without us, right? We work together with partners and we look for who's not at the table, who's not in the action. And the actions that we do are not just marching in the street with signs, although some of us actually like that, I do. But they can be anything from, doing something alone to doing something with a statewide crowd. And every single step of the way involves reasoning and feeling and doing. And when those things are missing, it's not good enough. What MUUSJA is about is creating the network, creating the relationships, and creating an opportunity for every single person, regardless of their physical capabilities, their time, and their bandwidth for commitment. We want to create an opportunity at every level for every single person to know that they are needed and that they count and they matter. Some of the stuff that we've done over the course of the year has included welcoming Afghan refugees, participating in the Joint Religious Legislative Coalition Day on the Hill, Earth Day. We did the Common Read with Defund Fear around policing and abolition. We have been to 7 Pride festivals across the state. We stood in solidarity with the Minnesota Muslim Cemetery, which, as you'll hear in a minute, has fed very directly into the work that we're doing as a team around apartment outreach. We participated with the UUA. We did a workshop at Camp Unistar. We are working right now on immigrant and refugee solidarity. We're hosting UU the Vote at a statewide level and just kind of coordinating those activities. We will be sharing during October, the Indigenous Justice and Reparations Forum that you all, thank you very much, created with Becky Gonzalez-Campoy and a number of other folks who are working on that issue. And also in November, we will be hosting a statewide forum using the sacred curriculum around interfaith reproductive justice. How do we have those conversations? Some of us with ourselves, if we're uncertain about how to put our reproductive justice values into clear language, and some of us at the Thanksgiving table with more conservative relatives. Okay, voting. What we need, the point of working on elections is never the election, unless you're an election geek. And I will confess, you know, it's like I have fun working on elections per se, but most people hate it. So why would you want to do it anyway? Because, you know, elections sometimes are, you know, why we cannot have nice things. And sometimes it's why we can have nice things. And some of the nice things that many of us are interested in are reproductive rights, dealing constructively with the climate crisis, dealing constructively with gun safety. And we want people, you know, we vote because we want to get people into some positions of legislative power who will listen to us and care about the stuff we care about and get shit done, right? So we have some particular targets where we think about who we need to reach in order to accomplish that goal, which is the point of having elections at all. And those key areas this year in the state of Minnesota, where we need to reach voters and talk with them about making progress at a federal level, primarily includes southern Minnesota, south of the Minnesota River. So the towns where we have congregations, for example, include Winona, Rochester, Mankato, Northfield, and Eagan in those areas. There are a couple of key areas where we want to reach voters about Minnesota state progress, where we're not likely to be making federal change, but we could make change at a state level to make some progress on the issues that we care about. And those include the western suburbs, so Plymouth, Minnetonka, Chaska, Chanhassen, where we have congregations, and also the northern crown suburbs where we may be able to reach some people, Maple Grove, Osseo, Coon Rapids, Champlin, up in there. We are less well represented physically in those spaces, but you know, they're not that far away. Where do we not need to work as hard in order to realize our goal of reaching voters about progressive issues? St. Paul, hello, Minneapolis, and the inner ring suburbs. So if we're sitting at a table in St. Paul doing voter registration, that's not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing, but it's kind of a feel-good thing in terms of its ultimate impact. So one of the key initiatives that MUUSJA will be working on this year, and you know, obviously I wouldn't be talking to you about it if I didn't want to invite you to consider whether and how this might be something that calls to your heart. It's an apartment outreach project that I'm working on with a couple of BIPOC-led organizations. This is not all my idea, but it's stuff that we've been talking about with Jailani Hussein from CARE Minnesota, and with people from Copal, which is an organization that represents a lot of Latinos in Minnesota. Jailani's organization represents many Somali, mostly Muslim voters from around the state. We only have 30 UU congregations, and they've got like 100+ mosques. So in terms of numbers, that's kind of a leg up for us. So the apartment outreach, the Good Neighbors, what I call the Good Neighbors Project, there are 3 steps to this. Number one, we're going to be calling MUUSJA'S likely list of possible volunteers, possible people who might be building representatives. I have access to the Minnesota voter list, and I have some skills with creating lists of people who live in apartment buildings. And so I will be making these lists. Why do we want apartment buildings? Because homeowners in Minnesota vote at a rate of almost 85%. People who live in apartments vote at a rate of about 60%. People who live in apartments are 85% BIPOC, that means Black, Indigenous, or people of color, and tend to be younger, middle-aged or younger folks, and tend to, as I mentioned, only vote at about a 60% rate. And when they do vote, they tend to be people who really are thinking and caring about things like the environment and education and equality. So we generally want them to vote. Okay, so thing one is to find a representative in each building by making some scripted calls and chatting with people about whether they're willing to be a building rep for us. Then we go in and print these postcards, and we try to, it's gonna save us a ton of change if we can have the building rep drop off a postcard at each door rather than us having to mail them, which is the alternative. But we'll get a postcard to every door in the buildings that we adopt. And then, best of all possible worlds, we create a bilingual, bicultural, multi-faith, multicultural buddy team of at least 2 people, one who's a native English speaker and one who speaks a language other than English, which is common in that building, say Somali, for example, or Hmong, or Spanish, or Vietnamese, or Russian. And we send those bilingual teams into the building to knock every door and make sure that folks saw the postcard, understand how to vote, and so forth. This is the postcard that I put together today. It's being printed. It should be ready in probably about a week or so. I won't have them this Sunday quite yet, but I should have about 1,000 of these just for a trial run for starters on Sunday of next week. We always print more. Postcard says, if anybody is trouble seeing it, we own our own bodies, we share the earth, we are all needed. When everyone votes, we all win. There is a QR code that links to the voter registration information website of our historically incredibly fabulous Minnesota Secretary of State, whose predecessor was a Unitarian, by the way, Mark Ritchie. That website is available in 10 languages. And the sample ballots are not quite ready yet, but as we get a little closer to the election, the new thing this year is that the information about how to fill out your ballot and the ballot itself will be available in all 10 languages. That is a first in 2022, and it's amazing. The other states, trust me, do not do this. The back of the postcard says, early voting begins September 23rd. Election day is November 8th. Facts about voting in 10 languages are at mnvotes.gov. Call 612-927-2072. That's my phone number. It will ring my phone with questions. If you need a ride to vote, we will try our best to help every eligible voter. Why am I not worried about putting my phone out there to thousands and thousands of people? Because I've done this every year for years. Most people will never call you. In any given year, when I've sent out like 10,000 copies of my phone number, I've gotten, 3 calls. But it is a super, super friendly thing to do. And like campaigns don't normally do it, and people love it. So the fine print at the bottom of the front of the postcard says that is just the disclaimer that this was paid for by MUUSJA, that it is not in consultation with, authorized by, or paid for by any candidate, campaign, or political party or PAC. So, and thank you. I'm seeing those questions come in. Keep them coming. I'm almost done with this part, and then we'll take questions. I'm trying to kind of bomb through this as quick as I can. Okay. The Unity of the Vote menu for 2022, like I said, 100% nonpartisan, congregation friendly, Everything on this menu you are allowed to do. If you dream up something that's not on the menu, please talk to me or somebody else who knows to make sure that what you're doing is actually legal for your congregation. You are a nonprofit, and so there are rules, and the main rule is if it has someone's name on it, if you can see someone's particular face when you hear about it, or if it has the name of a political party on it, don't do it at church. That said, I want to tell you, if you are working for a candidate or if you're running for office or thinking about it, God love you. It is an unforgiving, excruciating job, and it has to be done by good people. So kudos to you. All right, I talked about how we try to, kind of design our work so that everybody can do it. What you're seeing here is called a QR code. And a QR code is a thing where if you hold up your phone to it, the You the Vote menu will sort of like pop into your phone. So this will be in the slides that you get, and you can even do it on your computer screen, which is like a super cool thing I just learned. All right. I am going to click the bit.ly link and come over here and show you what the menu looks like this year. This will be too small for you to actually read, which is why we are giving you the link so you can look at it. I know most people won't be able to actually read this, so I'm just going to zoom through real quick. Nonpartisan action, the website, if you forget everything else I tell you, your one take home, mnvotes.org, or you can go mnvotes.gov. It takes you to the same place. MN Votes, so MN stands for Minnesota, Votes stands for votes, is the Secretary of State website. It has so much information. You could just like dive in there and spend days. You can binge that website, but it is amazing. We have like the best Secretary of State website in the entire freaking country. And that's one of the reasons why our turnout is so high. Okay, so that's where you want to go first. And if you can't find something there, call me, because I have binged it. All right. We have these cool lawn signs. I made a new one, and I don't have a good picture of the new one. That's like a Unitarian. It's a You the Vote lawn sign, but you can always post nonpartisan lawn signs, on your church lawn. And Unity was great. Like last year, no, I'm sorry, in 2020, Unity had posted this lawn sign, which was created by the League of Women Voters in Bloomington, in English, Somali, Spanish, and I think Hmong languages, and that was cool outside the church. You can post nonpartisan lawn signs at church. You cannot post candidate signs. On your own lawn, it's perfectly fine to have candidate signs and nonpartisan signs side by side. Talk to the people you know, talk to your children, your college students, snowbirds, travelers. Post all over your social media that you care about the election and that you are actively engaged in doing something about it. But the thing is that like everybody I know is they're not everyone, but most of the people that I know, they're going to vote. I'm happy with how they're going to vote, although that's their business. And what we know is that by the time people hit about 55 years old, so if you're a baby boomer like me, I'm going to be 66 in a month. And if you're my age or, kind of in that generation, you come back to the ultimate goal. It is not going to help us move towards this ultimate goal of representation that will get us the nice things we want to just talk to your friends, right? Especially if they're, actually, regardless of whether they're kind of with you or not. By the time people hit 55, they have pretty well made up their mind whether or not they're ever gonna vote and how they're gonna vote. The one exception to that is you can certainly talk to people about who you're liking for nonpartisan races like county attorney and county sheriff and stuff like that, because that people get very confused about those races. So those aren't clear. So talk to your friends and family about those races. But if you spend all your time talking to your friends and family or talking to people at church who are kind of like your same age, if you're a baby boomer like me, it doesn't buy you anything, right? It doesn't move us forward as a team. So what we want to do is make sure to reach out to people who are snowbirds or college students who might need to get some information, make sure they understand how to get that info about how to vote absentee, because that does really matter. But after you've talked to your friends and family, that's just the appetizer. Then you go on. There are programs that are all about college student and high school student voting. And the Unitarian Universalist social justice team, which is it's our people in Washington, D.C., they constructed this website to help us learn how to ask our own colleges, any colleges that we might be connected with. So, where your kids or your nieces or nephews go, anything that you're an alum of, you can contact the colleges and make sure that they have committed to work with an organization whose sole focus is getting college students out to vote. And it's called askyourcollege.com. And so we can help with that. As alumni or as parents or uncles and aunts of college students, our job then is to bug these colleges to make sure that they are on board with the organizations that are all geared up to reach their students. There is an organization called When We All Vote, which does some similar work with a high school program called My School Votes, and they go into the high schools. And also many of the League of Women Voters chapters around the state of Minnesota will do work with local high schools. Here in Bloomington, I know I volunteered to go staff the desk for Kennedy High. The apartment project is a keynote of what MUUSJA'S helping to organize this year. We're really excited about that, and I've described that already. But for folks who want to take a more national focus, we are part of a team with the UU the Vote project, sponsored by Side with Love, the UU Association National Organizing Project. And they are focusing on phone banking, text banking, postcarding, and sending letters. And the nonpartisan groups that we are able legally, to team with are Reclaim Our Vote, which is part of the Center for Common Ground. And that we wrote as a state 59,000 postcards and letters with Reclaim Our Vote and with Vote Forward in 2020. And so that's the bar that we're trying to clear here with MUUSJA'S local postcards, and then the national postcards with Reclaim Our Vote and letters with Vote Forward. One of the things that we can have ready for sure by this Sunday is setting up, if you guys want to, is setting up a table during social hours with some of the letters from Vote Forward. That's a very easy and quick thing to create. One last thought, when you go to Vote Forward, if you want to do some of those kinds of letters, you do need to be very careful to make sure at church that you're printing the what's called their social campaigns and not the ones that are labeled as political campaigns. They're targeted differently. Okay, one sec. I got myself a Castle Danger cream ale instead of a cup of tea, so that's my, because elections. So phone banking and texting, couple ways to do this. One of the things that is really exciting this year is that the UUA is teaming up with an organization called the Environmental Voter Project, which has some strategies for specifically targeting voters who care most deeply and are called to their personal ministry around climate justice. And so phone banking and texting through some of the UUA projects or directly with Environmental Voter Project is great. And they were also going to be doing some postcarding, as I understand it. We will also be letting everybody know about opportunities to call and text with You the Vote directly. The one that's coming up most immediately is into Michigan. We will be doing a big one into Wisconsin in October. And it's just super neighborly of us, whatever else we're doing, to hop on those. So I'll be part of that. Show up for your League of Women Voter candidate forums. I am ashamed to say that the one in Bloomington was overwhelmingly stocked with folks who do not share my values around, kind of making schools affirming for gay kids, for example, and not banning books on racism and misogyny from the Bloomington Public Schools. So the candidate forum that just happened in Bloomington, I did not attend, and it was overwhelmingly attended by folks whose views are diametrically opposed to mine. So when the League of Women Voters runs the candidate forum, even if you're in St. Paul, where you're feeling pretty confident that about your views being represented well, you want to show up for those. It's only one night. Be there. They work really hard, and volunteer if you can. We are joined with a partnership called We Choose Us this year. So if you're working with me and MUUSJA'S stuff, or you're working with Sherry and Priscilla and your local You the Vote liaisons at Unity, you don't have to do anything special with this. You will be hearing about it. We Choose Us is this really phenomenal campaign that is representing a wide swath of progressive, secular and multi-faith and faith-based organizations. So CARE, the Muslim organizations, Jewish Community Action, Minnesota, I actually, I'm not sure about that. Isaiah and other multi-faith networks are part of this We Choose Us campaign. And the idea is we want a multicultural democracy that recognizes that we own our own bodies and we share our planet and we vote. So We Choose Us will be working around that. You can sign up to be an election judge and to work at the polls. You can sign up to, so this is like things to do just on election day. That's why I call it dessert. So after everything else is done, there's no more voters to call. We can be election judges. You do have to sign up for that like a couple, at least I think like a month in advance, maybe like now would be a good time to check that out. And Common Cause, who's one of our partners, is recruiting people to be nonpartisan election protection volunteers. So like if you're a person, let's say, you have severe hearing loss and you have a really hard time communicating with people, or you're not able to speak really clearly, you can sit in your car outside a polling place and just keep an eye out. And if you see something untoward, like somebody's putting their candidate signs all over the lawn, which is totally illegal, you can send a text to a special text number, and that's how we do election protection in Minnesota. If you want to do that at the polls, you do need to sign up with your own preferred political party. We don't have poll watchers who come in from outside the party, but both parties will have poll watchers in the precinct polls. So you can do that if you're a partisan person. We are co-sponsoring a presentation on September 22nd about how we think we should elect the president. And secret, it is not the Electoral College. So there's a Unitarian on that panel who's helping to organize that. And Mark Bonhorst from First Universalist. That's going to be amazing. The link is there. We're organizing for the Long March. There is so much going on nationally with You, the Vote. There's all kinds of skills. So if you want to kind of really do a deep dive into this and get super good at it, you want to join some of the skill up sessions that You, the Vote is doing. And last but not least, we need each other, and we need people to be with when we get exhausted, because everything is at stake and everything is at risk, right? All the things. And it isn't like that's not true every single year. It is feeling atypically true because it is absolutely the case that the level of polarization, the level to which some folks absolutely will not be representing my values, is sort of more exaggerated than it has been sometimes in the past. Okay, so we are here for you. Your clergy are here for you. Every single UU clergy person in this state knows what we're doing and is on board with it. And if you're feeling like you need pastoral care around anything, but including around your electoral work, that's why we do it in church. Okay. All right, so that's a lot to listen to and bomb through quickly. I'm gonna unshare this screen here. So, and hand it back to Sherry. Sue's been taking lots of questions and hopefully tracking those when I wasn't able to.
Yeah, before we go to questions, I just want to mention what we will be planning to do here at Unity. First of all, I talked to our new interim minister, Reverend Kathleen, on Sunday, and she was like, yeah, midterms are important. So there we have someone for pastoral care if we need it, I think. What we plan to do at Unity is we will be sending weekly or bi-weekly emails to you, everyone who registered with this event, and more people who have volunteered but were unable to attend tonight. And those emails will tell you what we're emphasizing at the time, and because sometimes it changes, week by week as we get closer to the election. And your first email we will send out as soon as we know when we can make the postcards available for sending to, if you want to send postcards into apartments, as Karen Wills mentioned with the Good Neighbors Project. So we will let you know when and where they can be picked up, as well as information about if you want to get involved with phoning people, as Karen gives us information about the actions to phone into apartment buildings, or if people want to go in and actually door knock in buildings with a partner. We will be putting quite a bit of emphasis this year on actually Minnesota elections, partly because I think our government here was really, our legislature really was not able to accomplish very much in the last session, and to the detriment of everyone, I think, because of differences among the legislators. So we view Minnesota as a really important state for us to be getting out the vote. As Karen mentioned, there'll also be these other opportunities to do work in other states around the country, and we will identify those as well as they arise on a timely basis with you. So before please feel free to put questions in the chat. Karen, one of the ones that was asked is, you had said Hamlin Law School has that forum, and actually the question was, is it actually Mitchell Hamlin?
Yep, and I yes, and I just made that. Thank you for that feedback, and I just made that edit on the menu. So it's is it? Do they normally go Mitchell/Hamlin or Mitchell-Hamlin? I just, that was my oversight.
I should know the answer to that, but I don't. But
Okay, well, I put Mitchell Hamlin, yeah, but that is it. And Mark Bonhorst is one of the panelists for that, and it's I think it's going to be a fascinating talk. I'm really looking forward to that.
another question that arose earlier was about what information is included on the Secretary of State's website. Does it include information on how to vote early?
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, absolutely. There is. We could actually, yeah, actually we could. Let me take a very quick peek here. So if we come right over to amendvotes.org. So as you get, so this is the Secretary. This is where the Secretary of State's website. This is what's here. You can see that it's here in all these yada yada different languages, and the a couple sections that I think might be of special interest to people. One is find out where you vote. Now, one of the things, one of the confusions that I heard when I was at the State Fair helping to staff the booth for the Secretary of State's office, just as a volunteer, is a lot of people seem to think that because of redistricting, they have to re-register to vote. That is not true. If you're fully registered and you voted in the most recent election, you're on the and you haven't changed your name and you haven't changed your address, you don't have to register again. If you have changed your name or your address, you do have to register again. If you have, but the thing that is going to be tricky for, or going to be a kind of an issue for almost all of us, is that because of the redistricting, for many of us, the polling place where we would go vote on November 8th has changed. And so if you want to check your polling place, one of the first things here is find out where you vote. You click on that and all you have to do is put your zip code and your county in there, you put your address in, and it will spit out exactly where you go, right? We'll put me in here. Now y'all know where I live, so don't ask, don't tell. And then you just kind of zoop through. But once you know how to do this, if you have someone who's kind of not super computer savvy, you can help them, find that. And so you see, when I put this in, what I get is my next election date is November 8th, the state general election. I'm voting at Oak Grove Presbyterian Church. Yay, we love them. This is my precinct, Bloomington, Ward 1, Precinct 4. I can get a map to my polling place if I need it. So if I'm on my phone doing this, that might be handy, right? It takes me right into Google Maps. It will list ballot drop box locations, assuming that the state still allows us to have drop box. That's a little bit iffy this year. We're back to kind of pre-COVID normal voting behavior for the most part. And I get all my districts, so I know like where I live. If I want to, I can decide now. I used to be in 50, now I'm in 51. I can decide, which League of Women Voters candidate forum do I want to go to? Do I want to bother with, West Bloomington? No, I can't vote for them anymore. So I'm going with the East Bloomington people. And so I can come on down here and I get my list of candidates. And so if I'm not even sure who's on my ballot, here is the whole darn list, right? This is, I live, and I'm not in St. Paul, I'm out here in the Hennepin County suburbs, but I've got my representative, my state senators, my state rep, all the people running for governor, the Secretary of State, candidates, which in my humble opinion is the most important election on the entire ballot. If you vote for no one else, please go vote for your preferred Secretary of State, State Auditor, Attorney General, County Sheriff, County Attorney, Park District Commissioners, Justices and Judges. Hello. There are very, very few of these races, as you will notice. In fact, I'm not sure if there are any this year in my district. Yeah, I'm sorry, there are a couple that might be contested. There are very, very, very few contested judge races. If you have a contested one, please do research it and find out, because we have all seen this year how incredibly critical the Justice Department is to keeping, to helping us have nice things. Okay, so that is one of the things on the Secretary of State. The other things on Secretary of State, you can, register to vote. You can find out all about how to register on election day, and if you have college student, or if you know people who are away from home, I'm a college student, how do I vote? I'm in the military, I have a criminal record, I'm in a nursing home or a hospital. Many of us have relatives who are living in assisted care kinds of spaces. I'm going to be moving close to election day. I'm living temporarily. I'm homeless. All right, you see what I'm saying? This is the best. This sets the bar for every Secretary of State in the whole freaking country. It's gorgeous. It has everything. You just have to sort of navigate it. Election day voting is here, but you can also go to, let me come back to this. You can also go, so election day voting has its own special section. That's all about how to register, who's allowed, where you vote, the hours, and so forth. But for early voting, zoom on over here to other ways to vote, right? And that will give you everything you ever wanted to know and more about how to vote early, how to vote by absentee, by mail, in person, military and abroad, where they're allowed to vote by email. And then here's this cool thing. This is what to share with your crotchety uncle who is convinced that our electoral process has been rigged and is fraudulent. When people vote by absentee, if you vote early or you vote by mail, every single ballot is tracked, and you can put this in here and see where it is in the process. Has your vote actually been counted, and has it been counted only once? And you will see that yes, indeed, all of those things are the case. So, all right, maybe any other questions, Sherry, about sort of the Secretary of State website? While I'm here, I'll drop this.
Barbara Benner has her hands raised, so I was just going to ask her what she'd like to say.
Yeah, I'm lost.
And I think you're muted, Barbara.
Hey, Barb. Hi.
Hi, I'm on an iPad, so I can't type questions in. My question is about the pairs who are going to visit the apartment houses. What is the purpose of having a unilingual person along? What role is that person expected to play?
Yeah, well, what we found is a couple things. One is that racism is not confined to white people. And so racism is not confined to people of any particular race. And so we find that biracial and bicultural and bilingual teams in buildings where there is a mix of racial and ethnic and cultural residency, people are, this is something that's been done. It's not a brand new idea, but it was done for the census, and it's been done in a couple of previous elections. And what the groups who are recommending this have said about it is that it means that everyone in the building of any race or ethnicity or age or predilection is more likely to open the door and to actually talk with the people who knocked on it than if it's, you know, just a native English speaking white person or even a bilingual white person. Or if it's, or also, and this might be surprising, if it is, say, a building with a lot of, you know, Somali speaking residents, and the only person at the door is like a young Somali organizer, especially if that organizer is male.
Okay.
And a question that just came in, are any of the apartments targeted part of federal housing? I assume that means.
Probably, that would be Section 8. Yeah, yes.
And I think you have mentioned to us, Karen, that there'll be steps taken to get into the buildons through, or, you know, appropriately. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But,
So MUUSJA is not sponsoring illegal entry. You know? Yeah. But that work, I mean, and you know, I mean, if there's anybody who's sort of done some of this and you're kind of like into it, I absolutely, you know, no volunteer has ever refused. I mean, there will be a fair bit of telephoning, and we do have to get permission from property managers or building owners to be able to come in, even if we have a rep in the building willing to leaflet the building. So it's a bit of a multi-step process. And obviously we want to do that both to be able to leaflet and to canvas, because it saves us a whole heck of, you know, a ton of postage. But worst case scenario, we will simply mail postcards and then worry about getting into canvas when and as. If anybody is interested in helping me make these phone calls, that is mostly on me. I work half-time for MUUSJA, 20 hours a week in theory, and I have a 20-hour-a-week private practice. I'm a pediatric neuropsychologist. I am suspending my private practice between now and the election, and I'll be working full-time on this project.
Well, it's 8 o'clock. So I think we'll wind up here. I want to remind everyone again that you will be getting an email from Priscilla and I regarding steps you can take when postcards are available for pickup at Unity. I think it'll be our pickup and drop off point. Also, we will have a page on the Unity website that kind of summarizes things and gives a place for additional people to sign up if they want to join the volunteer list. And that will also be, I will share that information with you. I thank all of you for taking the time tonight to join us. Voting is, I think, really central to our democracy and just the beginning of our work as members of a democracy, as you all know, because I think you tend to be more active people in the world. I want to thank Karen so much for her leadership on UU the Vote in Minnesota, if I can say that, and for tailoring projects that really help our Unitarian community in Minnesota reach out to BIPOC lower income voters. I think many of us recognize the importance of that and want to lift those voices in our democracy. So Karen, thank you for your tireless work and leadership.
Thank you.
So again, if you have questions, if you want to get started on anything right now, you can look at Karen's menu or wait till you get emails from us. And I thank you for being here and hope the rest of your evening goes well.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Sherry.